Hi everybody, welcome to Storytime with Pastor Kyle and his girls, and tonight we're going to talk about the girl no one wanted. Alright, let's begin. There were once two sisters. The youngest sister was very beautiful. Her name was Rachel. But the oldest sister wasn't beautiful at all. Some thought her quite ugly. And her name was Leah. Rachel was the kind of girl who always gets invited to parties and chosen first for teams. Everyone loved her. And poor Leah, hardly anyone even noticed her. One day their cousin Jacob came to stay. He was one of Isaac's sons, and he was on the run. You see, Jacob had stolen and cheated and made some enemies, including his own brother, and now he was hiding. The funny thing is, Jacob, most of all people, was the one God gave the special promise to. The promise that he had given to his grandfather Abraham. Do you remember when he said, "I will rescue the world through your family"? Well, Jacob stayed a long time working for his uncle Laban. One day, Laban said, "Jacob, I've decided to pay you for your work. What do you want?" A sudden thought struck him. "How about, if I may, can I marry one of your daughters?" Jacob looked at Rachel, and he looked at Leah. Who would he choose? Of course, he chose Rachel. "I'll work 7 years for free," Jacob said, "if I can just marry Rachel." So Jacob worked 7 years, and at last his wedding day arrived. But that night, Laban played a nasty trick on Jacob. Instead of sending Rachel to marry Jacob, he sent Leah. Now in those days, they didn't have electricity, so it was very dark in the tent. And besides, women would wear veils so that you couldn't see their face. So Jacob suspected nothing. The next morning, Jacob woke up and screamed, "Ah!" Can you kids do a scream? That's a very good one. He woke up and screamed. Where are we in the book? His wife was laying beside him, but it wasn't Rachel at all. It was Leah. Jacob jumped out of bed. "Laban," he cried, "you scoundrel, you tricked me." But Laban said, "Well, you'll have to work for me another 7 years if you really want to marry Rachel."
Because in the olden days, you had to have the older sister get married first.
So Jacob worked for Laban another 7 years, and at last Rachel became his wife. Now Jacob had 2 wives, but of his 2 wives, Jacob loved Rachel the best. "No one loves me," said Leah. "I'm too ugly." But God didn't think she was ugly. And when he saw that Leah was not loved and that no one wanted her, God chose her to love her specially, to give her a very important job. One day, God was going to rescue the whole world through Leah's family. Now, Leah knew that God loved her in her heart. Suddenly, it didn't matter anymore whether her husband loved her the best, or if she was the prettiest, or what anyone else thought. Someone had chosen her. Someone did love her, with a never-stopping, never-giving up, unbreaking, always and forever love. So when Leah had a baby boy, she called him Judah, which means, "This time I will praise the Lord." And that's just what she did. And you'll never guess what job God gave Leah. You see, when God looked at Leah, he saw a princess. And sure enough, that's exactly what she became. One of Leah's children's children would be a prince, the very prince of heaven, God's own son. This prince would love God's people. They wouldn't need to be beautiful for him to love them. He would love them with all of his heart, and they would be beautiful because he loved them, just like Leah. And that's the end of our story. And tomorrow night, kids, we're going to read The Forgiving Prince. Have a good night.